you have to readjust your alignment or find new allies and know who your new enemies are. And Africa is just sort of watching and just being like sipping our tea, like, okay, cool.
This is crazy. This is crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Because Hello. Welcome back again. It's Think Talk. It's Malik and Ibra again. And Ibra, I'm super excited again for this episode 31. And I want to jump right into it. Are you ready? Or do you have something to tell our fans?
Hey, fans, is
oh, good. Jumping right into it, yeah, Ibra.
Yeah.
I want us to talk about, so this last week, there was big news because the US tariffs against every single country in the world came into play. And, I want to throw in a joke very quickly because this tariff was also applied to, I forgot the name of the country now, but it was a country where they said, oh, they don't even have a human population. But the American government is just like, we don't care.
I didn't know you saw that as well. Man. I wanted to say to you, like, should we just add this in? That was mental, bro. Like, I think it was just Iceland, man. It was like just ice, man. Like, yeah, not the country Iceland, but
Like some kind of new blah blah with like penguins and I saw it and I'm like, yeah, I mean the Trump administration is just trying to be thorough. In case there's someone there that is sending one
I
little
find that quite
tariffs.
I think they're just trolling us at this point. They're trolling the world, man.
And I think we're going to get into, because that speaks to how they have chosen to implement it and how they have chosen to put everything together. And we'll get into it as we go through this episode. Now, I think I have our structure in mind. Yeah, feel free to move and say whatever you want, but I want to walk us through this line and see where we get to. Yeah. So the first thing is I want us to be very basic. The reason for this is I've seen a lot on the internet lately that brought me to the realization that people do not know what tariffs are. Like, you literally, like, I've spoken to a few people as well where I go, oh, did you hear about the tariffs? And they're like, what is that? Oh, is it that thing where trade, blah, blah, blah. People do not know what tariffs are. I also saw a tweet on Twitter or X where someone was like, oh, I already know tariffs are super bad, but how bad are they really? I was thinking to myself, wow, at least from my perspective, that's just showing that people don't even know what we're talking about. So I want us to start from really what are tariffs, just to define that a little bit. For me, I like to define it as a tool that the government uses, to manage trade, right? So it's a price increase. It's a price increase on traded goods. And the reason I put it that way is that it's a tax or a price increase. It's basically a tax levied on traded goods, but it looks like the impact is it increases the price of whatever that good is. Now, there are two main types of tariffs. There are import tariffs and export tariffs. Export tariffs are not that common. Basically saying a tariff on product that you want to take out of the country, to send somewhere else. That's possible as well, but these are not that common. What's more common is import tariff, right? So a tariff on products that are coming into the country. And that tariff, or this, let's call it the tax that they place on it, the impact that it usually have, right? The direct impact is that the price of that product will increase once it gets into the internal market of whatever country has placed that tariff. I hope that's a little bit clear. Now, whether this is good or bad, it gets more complicated. If that's out of the way, do you think that's a good description of what tariffs are, Ivan?
I mean, yeah, it sounds about right. I'm checking the definition also online now. It says a tariff is a duty imposed by government of a country or customs territory on imports of goods. Besides it being a source of revenue, import duties can also be a form of regular blah 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 blah. But yeah, that sounds about right.
Our definition at the moment, at least the definition that I've given, is even more complete than that
they
one,
said
because that's focusing
import,
on just import tariffs, and because they're also export tariffs. Okay, good. Now let's go to the crux of the whole discussion. The US in the last week placed this duty, this tariffs, on every country in the whole world. They have their reasons for doing this, and that's the first thing I want us to look into. What was the intention of the US government for doing this? What do you think they were trying to achieve, Ibrahim?
I mean, they're trying to save their economy, right? And I feel like they've seen that the American economy is not what it used to be. And I feel like this is just a way for them to just try to salvage or at least make the situation better, from my opinion.
I totally agree. They want to make the situation better, and the way they want to do that is, one, to reinvigorate their manufacturing economy. Yeah? So the part of the economy that actually manufactures products, they believe that part has gone down. And they think America was built on manufacturing. The working class of the US was built on manufacturing. So they're thinking, how can we save that? Now, if this is the intention of the US president or the US government at the moment, is this bad or good from your perspective? I don't want us to get into the details yet of impact, outcome, just intention stand alone. Because I've also gotten the impression that from the internet, people are not clear. I don't think everyone is on the same page with regards to whether this is a good intention or not.
For sure, you can argue that with Trump, his number one priority is to make sure the American economy is better, and he's trying to do that to the best of his abilities. And I honestly don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing also, because I mean, we can never tell, right? But if he believes in it, he should go for it. I mean, it's an instrument for a reason, right? So I believe there has to be some logic to it. I mean, there is, right? We just read what the meaning is also. So I believe, that's his intention, right? To make everything better.
Exactly. So standalone intention alone, for me, I would say, well, it's a good intention for a president of the country to have, right? I'm not American, but if I would be American, I would appreciate that we have a president that looks at the country and say, look, there are things that we need to change, and I want to do it, right? I don't want to play games. I want to do it. If we have some sort of alignment, that the intentions are probably okay, that the American government wanting to, so I think there's another intention layer to it. So there's the intention of, let's improve manufacturing within the country. Let's make companies invest more in the US, create more jobs in the US, produce more in the US. I think there's also the intention of self-sufficiency, because I think the US believe that on certain products they are now over-reliant on a country that they would consider a rival, right? So there's also a competition angle, right? Because as the US wanting to retain their crown or their position as the largest economy in the globe and the leader of the Western world, at least, their reliance on China is scary for the Trump government. I think this is also one of their intentions. I believe that they are worried about that, and it's one of the reasons that they're doing all this.
Yeah, I mean, not just to not jump the gun, right? Because I'm not sure what direction you are taking this, right? Because I have a lot of comments on this, but to just keep it short, for sure they have to. China is not a small country. They haven't been for a long while, man. But the idea where the US is denying that or acting like it's not true, that's gonna hurt them more than they can even imagine. So I feel like for sure, if there's one thing that I agree with Trump, is to definitely see China as a huge, massive player and a big competitor that they have to be worried about, for sure. And a lot of Americans, I don't think they're seen, especially Democrats. But I don't want to go into details of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Or maybe they see it and they
are denying it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are in denial. Because if they are not in denial, now, again, on a personal level, I'm not in accordance, so I'm not in alignment with the idea of countries should be competing. But the reality of the world that we live in is countries are also competitors, because it impacts the shift of power and how they interact with each other. Now, if the reality is what is true, then I think it does not hurt any country in the world. I mean, I think it just makes sense for any country in the world to look out for themselves with that competitive mindset at the back of their mind. right? So if the US is doing that aggressively, again, I'm not American, but I cannot stand here and tell the US don't do that. Just seems like a lot of Americans don't think that way as well. Now that we know that intentions are there and it probably makes sense, now let's get into what do you think this tariff will have as economic impact on the US? How do you think it will impact the economy and society?
I mean, it's already doing that. I think the prices of goods already went up. So that's one direct implication of that, at least short term. Long term, maybe it then fixes like the way people trade with the US. Maybe now everyone is being charged accordingly because now they are claiming, yeah, a lot of these countries are just ripping them off. I don't know a lot about that, but yeah, short term for sure, the prices of things are already going up, and the supply might also be cut short due to the whole tariff thing and all. So yeah, any good benefit right now? I don't see any. I think any sort of benefit would definitely be long term effect. Maybe not right now.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, which makes sense, right? That at least the immediate effect is now companies have to pay more, or at least entities have to
Yeah.
pay more to bring in products that Americans need. And if they're paying more, they will simply pass that cost to the consumers. At least in the short term, that price increase is totally expected. But then I think the US government expects that as well. What I'm curious about is, what do they plan to do about that? Are they just expecting that the people will take that and accept it? Or do they have plans already? This is just
Yeah, I feel
expectation.
like for sure they just, yeah, they're not really talking about it, but they know you just have to adjust. I feel like, I mean, for any government to plan something like this, you just believe that people will sit tight and they will change their dance to the tune of the music, right? So there's no other way they can. Do you feel like there is that they could have any sort of, what's it called now, plan to maybe reduce or to mitigate like the impact of this on the people? Because I don't think that will be there.
Honestly, yeah, I don't think so as well, because the only thing that I would have thought would be subsidizing things, but then that would be a direct alternate idea to the tariffs. So if you put tariffs on product and then you subsidize the products afterwards, it's just, you're just taking money to pay money.
Creating problem to solve it.
Yeah, exactly. Then it just means that you use tariffs to increase the price, and then you use subsidies to bring it back down. So it doesn't do the job that it's supposed to do. So I don't think there's anything that they can do. But do you think they have done maybe some sort of analysis on what are the products that Americans actually buy, right? What are the products that Americans actually buy? Are these luxury, ostentatious products, or are these necessities? Because I think that
Yeah.
would also impact how people can adjust, right?
I think they are necessities. I think that's why a lot, yeah, people are reacting a lot. Maybe that's the problem. I don't think these are things that are supposed to be like basic. For example, the direct one is like cars, right? So apparently even made in US cars are like usually finished in Canada, then imported finally into the US. And I've seen tons of videos on Instagram and TikTok where people who are already purchasing like cars are really pushing it as fast as they could just to get it in the country before all these things starts, like this past few days, right? So I'm like 2 years in the country and I'm already thinking in that direction, because the idea of how you consume cars is just different. So when you ask if it's a luxury or necessity, it is a necessity, but should it be? I would argue no. For cars to be like something you change, that you buy every
Exactly.
time, a household have like 3-4 cars, one truck, one this one. It's just a lot. Yeah, but it's unfortunately a necessity.
Exactly. But I imagine that this is something that people will be able to deal with in the
Yeah.
short term, no? Because when you think about it, so I checked, you're actually right. One of the biggest markets, or the biggest what do we call it? The biggest industries that will be affected by these tariffs, it's the automotive industry, it's technology, and rare earth minerals. But this industries does not look like necessity to me that people cannot deal with in the short term. Interestingly, America is quite self-sufficient when it comes to food. They actually produce most of the food that they eat internally. America is quite self-sufficient when it comes to energy. And these are the things that actually run the society, run the economy. So if you're not importing, in fact, America is actually close to becoming a net exporter of energy products.
Yeah.
So if energy won't be affected, food won't be affected, housing a little bit affected because of the wood from Canada, but the president has already given the go ahead to start cutting trees down. So it seems like the bits that might be necessities might not be affected in the short term, at least not as strongly as the bits that I think people should be able to manage short term. Now, this is just my perspective. So unfortunately, I couldn't find ready-made data to just report. It seems like if we want to actually come from the data angle here, we'll have to do our own analysis because of how we would like to interpret it. But as you said, the habits of Americans will definitely make it tough, because some of these things that I think it's not a necessity to buy a second car or to buy a new car every 6 months or something. To Americans,
well, people are already now that you're mentioning it, they are already adjusting, because there was this other video that I saw online, I think a few days ago, maybe yesterday even, and the comment goes like the direction of majority of the people in the comment section was, man, if I'm done paying for this car, man, I'm not changing it for. I think it's rewind like the consumer behavior also to then think about it like, okay, now you have one that you are paying for. I saw like a family, they had like 3 cars that they are still paying for. One like 1,200 every month, another one is like 800 every month. So in total, like the family has like, or they have like $4,000 every month on car payment. And I'm like, this is no longer a necessity, right? But then people are already saying, man, I'm happy, I'm glad my car is paid off, is this. We should normally be how a conservative consumer would think, right?
So you see that when we were talking about how the direct impact of price increase, it's a negative impact for sure. But now would you say this is a positive externality, like unintended consequence, or a negative?
It's a positive one for sure.
Positive one, yeah, because consumption reduces a little bit, but it also impacts the American GDP negatively. That's the other side of it. Now, let's even move away from the short-term impact. The long-term impact, what do you expect to happen?
I mean, retaliation, a lot of them, from everyone they are imposing the tariff on. And that's already even short, I would say. But then maybe
because China already responded.
Exactly. And I feel like
did you see it? China responded with I think additional 34% or 37%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if they had this in mind when they were coming up with this whole plan, that people won't retaliate, or maybe they miscalculated that their importance over another country. But I feel like definitely people won't just go down and just not try to fight for their country. So I expect people to come with like a countermeasure to sort of put the US in place and let them know you just can't do this to us without us putting up a fight or something. So then I don't know where the tariff would stand, or where the whole instrument, then if it works or not. But I see that for sure people will try to come for them the best way they can also, and it will be like a back and forth thing, and it's not just gonna be US not saying this is what we want to do and every other country just saying yes sir, let's give you what you want or something.
We're in a trade war, which is interesting. But for me, I'm seeing something very different. I do not think the reason the US is imposing tariffs on other countries is because they want to be able to send their own product outside. I think the US is more peculiar at this moment about self-sufficiency. Let's produce what we need internally to serve our internal market. And so when China then imposes a tariff on products from the US, do you think it shakes the US that much? Because the US is in any case already in a trade deficit with a lot of countries in the world, right? They import more than they export. And now if they stop importation, maybe majority of what they export now becomes internal product. And this retaliation does not have the same impact in any case.
Yeah.
But what about countries and the companies that actually rely on the American market to sell products because of whether it's the price or the population because it's a huge population that actually have a strong spending power.
Yeah.
Compared to other huge populations in the world. If you look at India, what's the spending power? This is also one of the big advantages of China as a market. China is the largest market for most luxury products because they have a huge population that if you say 10% of China is in the upper class, that's you having about 140 million people that can buy expensive stuff.
Yeah.
But China actually has about 80-90% of their population out in lower middle class and above. So they really have this huge market with a strong spending power as well.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that the US has because they have a population of almost 300 million or something, and the spending power is massive. So for me, that retaliation I don't see as a big problem, but I might be wrong. Now, this is also what I'm thinking. And I'm playing devil's advocate here because I think what has been the most public information at the moment is how tariffs are bad, how this is terrible, and no one is actually looking at intentions and what it might mean in the positive light for the American economy. Now, I do believe that direct price increase is an issue, but there's also one other thing that companies today, they have such an extensive supply chain that there are companies that you will expect to be affected by the tariffs, but they actually have, whether it's a small manufacturing site in the US, and they just need to expand that and focus on producing everything locally for the local market. And their manufacturing sites outside the US will continue to supply the rest of the world where there's no trade war happening.
Yeah.
So there are companies that will adjust instantly. That's one thing. The second thing that I'm thinking is I've seen the move on the stock market, which is a little bit baffling for me. These are massive companies with extended supply chains and all that stuff that I don't think their profit, P&L, their statement of account at the end will reflect that these tariffs have happened that much because they have supply chains, they have factories all over. For example, Teslas that are being sold in Europe are not even being made in the US. They're being made in Germany. They have this massive gigafactory
In Berlin.
Exactly. That's why most of the Teslas are. So this tariff does not really affect Teslas being sold into Europe because they are still within the EU. They benefit from the free trade zone as a company because these are the nuances that comes with this expected price increase. And Teslas in the EU, maybe this tariff will actually help Tesla when you think about it. I've not thought about it before because I think a lot of the other car companies, they do have manufacturing sites in Detroit, Ford and Mercedes and Jaguar Land Rover. They do have manufacturing sites in the US, but I think Tesla probably has the most complete one, which means that if, for example, some of these cars have to be finished in Canada and then these tariffs will affect them, Teslas are still going to be the same price because they actually manufacture most of their things down to their batteries in the US. I never thought about that angle. The thing is, there will be alternatives, right? That's one thing. The second thing is people believe that now that the US have imposed these tariffs, it's done. But I read a comment, I think, from the White House that they are now waiting by their phones to start getting calls from different countries to start negotiation because their plan around these tariffs, it's not to leave it at that final. It's to actually create a new baseline to start negotiating from. Is this a good idea or not? It's not clear how countries will react to it. Maybe countries will put themselves in that bad position of now I need to pick up the phone to call the White House and see what we can negotiate. And if you negotiate from that standpoint, the US can practically demand whatever they want.
Yeah.
But I think there will even be negotiations outside country to country. There will be company to country. So one of the companies that will be affected the most is Apple. And I thought about it and I'm thinking, if I would be Apple's CEO, what would I be looking to do? Because this will affect their market like crazy. iPhones and MacBooks are about to get crazy. They're already expensive. They're about to get even much more expensive. And the new iPhone has not even been released yet. iPhones normally come out in, is it September or something?
October, I think, yeah.
Right? So this tariffs will be fully in motion, right? And I think what's probably going to happen is, I don't know. But if I'll be Tim Cook at the moment, I'll be going into the White House to tell President Donald to say, look, President Donald, I promise, at least for all the iPhones that we sell in the US, we'll open a manufacturing site or we'll expand our site to make sure that we can deliver everything locally. We're going to create jobs. We're going to do all these things. Apple they have a load of money. They can do it. If any company in the world can survive this, it's Apple. Yeah, they literally have probably the largest cash bank in the world as well. So they can't promise something, and maybe for that promise, the president can say, okay, if you get it done this year, we would pause tariffs on Apple products, just Apple products, because we have negotiated with Apple's CEO. He has planned to do everything that we need to create the jobs locally, to at least create that self-sufficiency locally and all that stuff. But we know that it takes time for those things to kickstart. So pause tariff on Apple products. If they fail to deliver by the date that they expect to deliver, they owe us all the tariffs that we paused, and the tariffs continue. There is room for negotiation. Now I'm making up all this scenario.
You were talking about like the old tariff. I feel like I'm not sure if Americans are not even in agreement on this. I think maybe a lot of Americans probably are in tune with this whole idea, because I'm like, this all makes sense, right? Why are people actually complaining? And it sort of occurred to me that most people are really just talking about Trump's immigration policies and the witch hunting is like having with some ex-officials and all. Like maybe Americans subtly are in alignment with this, because I feel like it doesn't sound as bad actually, and I feel like when it comes to like retaliation on the tariffs, if the goal is, for example, like the US to be self-sufficient, then China will feel it more than like the US, for example, because I believe like China also would benefit a lot, like a ton lot of like exporting stuff to the US, right? So, but if US don't sort of need that anymore, they have to look for a new market. And I don't think there are so many countries like the US out there that will consume a lot of their products,
Yep, I agree with you. And so the thing is that China is now starting to think, oh, what can we do? Right? And I've heard that China is trying to come together, apart from the BRICS bit, they're also trying to come together with Japan and South Korea, which is crazy to think about. That China, Japan, and South Korea will come together as a union to find a solution for something. This is crazy. Their history does not show that this is possible.
I'm happy all this are happening, to be honest. I swear to God. I mean, like, it's like, I grew up seeing how the West are and all these coziness and, this whole them versus like Africa, for example. But now it's like things have changed, right? A lot changed over the years. And now you have to readjust your alignment or find new allies and know who your new enemies are. And Africa is just sort of watching and just being like sipping our tea, like, okay, cool.
Which is crazy, bro. Because let me put it this way: they are redistributing the structure of the world,
the power, the
and
wealth,
our leaders are still sleeping. We're waiting for them to finish and then say, "All right, what is ours? Tell us what's ours." Because why are we not thinking about who should we be allying with, based on African ideologies only? What helps Africa the most? What helps Nigeria the most? We don't care about anything. Who should we ally with? Should we be, because somehow indirectly we're sort of leaning towards the Chinese side of things, because that's where most of our trade is happening these days. That's where most of our products are coming from, and this is where most of our strategic partnership between government is also coming from. Whether this is good for us or not, I don't know. Yeah. But I think maybe we're also a little bit too, because these tariffs have been applied to us as well. So maybe we're a little bit too docile, or we just don't know what's going on, or we just don't give a flying.
I don't care. Our leaders just don't care. Yeah.
This is not, they don't want to get into all that.
We have too much natural resources that we can steal for as long as we want, and we'll still sort of be fine. Unlike some other countries that you have to sort of manufacture your resources, right? Like you have to make stuff like before you can actually make some money or something. I don't know. I'm just saying this is probably one of the reasons.
Yeah, but then all our natural resources we in any case send to the West, they make it into something that is actually useful and we buy it back.
Yeah.
Down to the crude oil in Nigeria, for example.
Yeah.
Thanks to the pressure that Aliko Dangote put on the entire government now, at least we're refining more of our crude internally. But for the longest time, we will export crude at a cheaper price and buy it at much more expensive price that actually requires the subsidy of the government for people to be able to afford. The government, at least recently, they're like, we don't care. Yeah, you guys play with the market as it is. Subsidy is gone. But it's interesting from the angle of what is Africa doing. And I also agree with you that yes, this realignment within the world is very interesting. And this is the other part that I'm thinking, is this good for the US? Because the US is participating in the world and managing to put themselves on top, right?
Mhm.
We're the leader of the free world, we're the leader of the free world. Now the US wants to do what China did in the past. They say, let's lock ourselves in. It's pro-US or nothing. Yeah, we don't care about the whole world. And now a new world is forming, and it's looking like China is about to be the leader of the world. Where does that put US in the future?
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
So let's say it all works out. They create these jobs internally, everything is fine. What happens? Is the US now going to come back and try to fight wars to take leadership again? Because that's what actually helped the World War II outcome, helped US to become this leader of the free world position, right? So is that something that they will try to create again to be once they are done? Because that's what they did,
Yeah.
once they are done building internally, creating all the jobs, and they feel like, oh, we have better self-sufficiency now. Are they now going to try to interact with the world again, but by force? Or what will happen? Because again, I'm looking at it that these tariffs are between US and other countries, right?
Yeah.
So within the rest of the world, things can still flow, right? So raw materials that will be super expensive for Americans, China can still get it. I mean, China in any case they have it, but the England can still get it cheap because they're trading on a different ground. Where does that put the US? Where does that put the dollar? Because the dollar denominated world is one of the structures that allowed the US to retain their position as leader of the free world. When countries decide that, okay, our trade is now happening less and less with the US because of tariffs or whatever it is, where does that put the US?
I don't think they care. I feel like with Donald's administration, one thing that I feel like they are trying to do is they see clearly that there is a problem that needs fixing, especially the economy. That's why most of this whole situation, they are really focusing on the economy, and a lot of people are also angry about how they are going about it, which is another discussion, right? But then it's like I think they are heading to a situation where if you don't fix it, something might still break. So caring about their position, the optics of like, yeah, how they want to still hold on to their world leadership, you have to be able to sustain it. When they made themselves that such powerful country, they were in a position to be that country. But I think right now, internally, they see for sure that, see, we might still try to hold like an exterior of someone who can, but we actually can't, at least not for long. So I think this is a battle of either or. You have to choose to either fix the country and lose this whole leader of the free nation ideology, not even an ideal position, or still trying to let the world feel like, oh, you are still that country. And that's why they are fighting back for the tariffs, right? Because they made all these negotiations or like this whole thing when they were capable of letting it slide. Like, you know what, 30%, no issues, no issues. But now they can't anymore. You get what I
That's
mean?
actually because and we're going to come back to that one when we talk about fairness, right? Because you're right now, at least from the information that I've seen online, other countries already have massive tariffs against American products coming in,
Yeah.
including China.
Yeah.
And it seems like what the US have done so far, even with the tariff increase and this baseline of 10%, the worst country is only on par with the US on tariffs. There's actually, at least from what I saw on BBC, I looked at the entire list and there's no country where the tariff coming from America, the tariffs on the imports into America is higher than the tariffs of American imports into the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's none. So if that's the way the world engages with the US, why should they accept that? When they talk about fairness, is it fair to the US or to the rest of the world? I brought it up now because you're saying something very interesting, that maybe America used to be in a position where they didn't mind, but now it matters to them.
Yeah.
What do you think when it comes to fairness? Looking at that list, what do you think? Is it even something to consider? Is it important to even discuss fairness?
I mean, coming from that angle, of course, it's not even fair to the US because you can see all these new tariffs, and there is, like you said, like there isn't anyone that or any of it that you can be like, oh, this is too much. They are just trying to level things up and be like, you know what, charity is done. And this still, you can already see this still falls into the whole Doge ideology and all, because it's all about efficiency and it's still what they are trying to go for. So it's not trying to be mean to any country, I would say. It's just like, let's treat each other now as equals, but for sure it will then take them off that, oh, leader of the free
And
world.
the leader,
Exactly.
we let this thing go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just as a disclaimer, of course, I'm only going off of data that I found on the internet. This uh, tariff between the country and what the US have, it's a list that's on BBC. I think we'll put a video just scrolling through it somewhere here. I was looking at it and I was at first thinking, nah, they must have calculated this wrongly. Maybe they took the product with the highest tariff on it. It can't be that these countries have this type of tariffs
I don't think it
against the
was wrong,
US
man.
products for all products. Like, I'm still in my head thinking, nah, cannot be real. Because if it's real, I don't see why all Americans are not 100% united on this and say, even for the of it alone, just for the it, just to balance things, yes, we need to at least reciprocate.
You're underestimating how an average American sees his or herself. I think it's strongly part of the ideology of an American person to still feel and carry themselves as a citizen of the free of the like the leader of the free nation, if that makes sense. It's like, I'm the product of, we are the people occupying the country that is considered the leader of the free nation. And they also want to really, I mean, I've some of my friends, like, you see what they post online, it's like they really care about the image of the world towards them. They want to have this idea of somewhat also maybe savior complex. So like removing all these sort
Yeah.
of things, then it makes them feel like a terrible human being. Which, I mean, if you are in the government and you see how bad things are, you would, yeah, maybe think otherwise. Because I feel like they've been in this luxurious position. And that's why all these tariffs, I feel like they existed to even start with. But now reality checks are like in, and you have to sort of adjust to the situation, and people don't know how to act.
Let's see. That's interesting. Now, to round it up, there are two other subtopics on this one. The first one is, what do you think about how it has been implemented? Do you think there's a problem with that as well? Or do you think it has just been done the way it can be done? Like, what do you think about implementation, including the way they have calculated the tariffs that was applied?
Yeah, I think I have a problem with the implementation for sure. I feel like a different approach would be calling a meeting with the president or like the people in charge of the trade in like other countries and tell them what you're about. Like, okay, you know what, this is what we are trying to achieve. We want to work with you, and we don't want to create an enemy, and let's try to have a common ground. That would have been a different approach to, what anyone thinks. We don't care about what you feel or how you see us. We just want this, and that's what we are demanding, and that's what we are gonna get. So, and these are people who have been like allies with you guys for like the longest time. So, not caring about the
Even
relationship,
England, Germany, everybody.
I
Yeah,
swear, I think that's problematic. Yeah, that's problematic for sure.
I totally agree with you. I found the implementation problematic. I believed it could have been more methodical, right? Picking industries and saying, "Oh, look, China, this is our trade account with you.
Oh, yeah.
It's clear that we're doing more of this and this, and this is problematic. We want to develop this internally, so we'll place X and X on this. Or how can you support us with this?" Like, there could be a less explosive way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, that's my personal feeling. But putting myself in the shoes of the US as well, one, with their, again, you said the average American has been wired to believe that, look, I'm a citizen of the leader of the free world,
Yeah.
right? And from that perspective, they do not believe that they should even have that sort of negotiation first before final conclusion. So instead, they're like, first of all, let's create an anchor position, which is not a bad negotiation tactic for someone with the power of the US. Say, It's an anchor position. We can blame it on this is now the new way of life because it's applied to every single country. And then this is how we calculate it if you would like to challenge that. And this is how it has been calculated. And I think this is why they have made it public information, how they calculated the tariffs that were applied to each country. We'll get to the calculation of that tariff later because I think it's complete and utter bull. But I would like to hear your thoughts, like the way they have calculated it now, the methodology of calculation. Before we go into that, from the negotiation standpoint, of course, you're right. They could be more methodical. They could look into negotiation first and then finding a resolution. They could have picked industries. They could have enrolled it to industries gradually so that it allows even them internally to have prepared to adjust. Right? Instead of saying the tariffs are in 1 week, they could have said, well, we're going to have tariffs on energy products in a year. So Apple, Google, do what you can do internally. You have 1 year. And then, gradually shift stuff.
Yeah.
People also from the other countries would have prepared. They could have done all that, but they didn't do it because I think maybe what they're looking for is not that the tariffs should even stand, because if they would do that and negotiate for 1 year, it will take a lot of time and effort, one, but it also means that after that negotiation, they can't simply just retract anything. Now, the US is actually still in the position where it's not a face-to-face negotiation. It's more a by feeling thing, because Trump can wake up tomorrow with the way he has done it now and say, all right, okay, pause. I've got like I slept about it and I'm like, Americans don't deserve this short-term price increase. So I'm giving other countries another 6 months. Let's see what we can do. Let's work together, guys. Right? And it makes it a little bit more blanket and softer as well in that regards. So I don't believe the US wants to maintain and keep these tariffs for these years to come. I think they have set a new baseline. And from a negotiation perspective, because now every single country that picks up the phone to call the US first is now calling from a position of slight weakness. We need you. Guys, let's fix this. What are you guys doing?
Mhm.
As opposed to the US calling them to the table. Now the US is just like, okay, if it bothers you,
Call me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So from the negotiation perspective, maybe. But again, personally, I'm not the guy that, I don't mind confrontation and all that stuff, but this kind of explosive implementation, and you are running a country, for God's sake, this is not your personal business. I think it could have been done a little bit more methodical. Now, to the one that I believe is utter bullshit. And again, I will say this. The way the tariffs have been calculated, have you seen it?
No.
We should find it somewhere here. And if you check, I saw someone on Twitter that said if you actually ask ChatGPT, Grok AI, Meta AI, and all these AI agents, they basically give you the same answer. And in all the lectures that I've taken, all the programs and courses that I've done on international trade, I've never seen tariffs being calculated using the percentage difference between your trade balance. So they basically calculate, are we in a deficit or a surplus with this country? If it's a surplus or it's baseline, you get the 10% baseline. Reason for this 10% baseline, Russian being in here, this is how you ask anyone. I don't know. How did they arrive at 10% baseline? It doesn't make sense to me. Why can't it be 0? Why can't it be 2? Why can't it be 1? The 10%, I have no idea. But if you go on all this AI and ask, how do you set tariffs against countries? They will say, oh, 10% baseline is always usually reasonable, blah, blah. I don't know how they fed this AI to be able to bring out that kind of rubbish. Now, on top of that, they're now saying, well, the countries where we find deficits, will simply take the percentage gap and bam, that's the tariff. I've never, in any classroom, at least theoretically, I've never seen a tariff being calculated this way, right? If you look at tariffs, you have to do all your analysis of elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply, and set the price such that you are in a good equilibrium, right? And that price difference. So basically, you would say a product is coming from China. There's an American product. The one coming from China is currently at $15. The one produced in the US is at $20, right?
Yeah.
If we want to make sure that this tariff works effectively, we have to now add something on the $15 to put it at 21, 25, whatever you think the elasticity is. Maybe if you put it at 21, for some reason, people will still go for the Chinese one. But maybe at 25, people will now go for the American one. But of course, demand will still shift, right? So if demand shifts, it doesn't mean that you will now still sell the same quantity. But this is a type of analysis, without complicating it too much, this is a type of analysis that you would do. And you can do this in different ways. You can either do a partial equilibrium analysis, which is this demand and supply stuff that we always do in economics classes, or you go even a little bit more advanced, you do it in master's or PhD classes, a general equilibrium analysis to actually also model what might happen to other sectors and other industries. That's how I thought people, I was taught to calculate tariffs and test the impact of tariffs. This trade balance peaking and then dropping, I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from.
Do you think it's not accurate, or like you think, oh, it's definitely accurate, but it's just bull that they came about it?
It's bullshit. They cannot be accurate. Okay, this is what they're doing with trade balance. They look at all the goods that the US exports, right? And all the goods that the US import. The share of export over import. And you know if you are in a deficit or a surplus. If you're exporting more than you're importing, it's a surplus. If you're importing more than you export, it's a deficit. They now take that percentage difference, and that's what they put on the 10% as your tariff. But how does this take into account prices? How? I mean, it has a direct indirect effect on prices because you actually take the actual value, but some products are just more expensive. You might have this deficit or imbalance or surplus simply because we export jets, super expensive, and we buy rice, maybe not as expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just because of the sheer total number price of jets, my calculation of balance, my trade balance calculation might be a surplus or deficit without accounting for the volumes or that price nuance. So to now take that percentage difference and say that's the tariff, that's what the administration is doing. The administration is doing that, and all the agentic AIs out there are in support. I don't know how they managed to give that kind of to all these AI platforms. And that brings us to another big problem of in the future, people will learn how to feed AI certain things that will manipulate society to the core.
For sure.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah, and they will be censoring. I mean, I see, because I follow a lot of AI pages also, that they are censoring a lot of these AIs. Like people who have been with it like for so long, they are claiming, oh, now you can't do this, now you can't. So the list of things you can actually do is getting reduced by the day.
As I'm a third party, but if I will be sitting in front of the US Congress or to Americans at the moment, I would go back to intentions, right? If you believe that your president have good intentions with regards to these tariffs, or at least intentions that you can align with, then you should be thinking about how you can participate in this new world in the favor of your country.
I think I have to make this important point. Now that you're talking about the intentions, I think why it's difficult for most Americans to really then believe, because if you ask me, do they feel like their president have like good intentions towards them? I'll say no, a lot of people don't feel like that. And it's coming from the perspective of knowing Trump to be not your typical politician. He's a proper businessman, and he's bringing in the world richest businessman on the planet. So, and we've seen how they've tried to run the country, and so they are not, I think the worry is they are not sure what their real intentions are, and they worry that it's to benefit the billionaire and the rich class. That's the big argument, like here over the, like, since Trump took over the government, right?
Yeah.
Not took over, like
They
took over the government.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think he has done certain things for the rich people. This tariff is not one of it. The market is red. The rich people are also bleeding. In fact, it's the rich people that has now been tasked with investing more into the economy. So Trump is saying spend more, right? And for him to make them spend more is also blocking their bags, because they're importing cheap stuff. They're importing cheap labor so that they can make more money into their own pocket, because that's not fully reflected in the salaries in the US, is it? Average salary is still about $50-something thousand. And according to the statistics, 10% of the country are millionaires, which is weird. Or 9%, 10%.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very clear that the rich people are just becoming richer and richer with the current system. And what this tariff is doing, at least from my perspective, is Trump is saying, nah, all that money that you're hoarding and keeping more, spend it. Create jobs for people. Pay them good salaries. You don't have the choice of going to take the jobs that should be for them because you sell products to them. You're taking it out because it's cheaper outside. So this tariff is actually asking his rich friends to spend more. The immigration stuff as well is asking his rich friends to spend more. There was a research that they did about people that believe Trump is in the right direction. And there's a huge gap when it comes to the gender and the education level. And I think the loudest people on the internet are the most highly educated ones and all that. And it looks like maybe Americans are not fully in support of Trump. But from that research, I saw that people on the lower end with lower education level and all that stuff, they feel that this is for them.
Yeah, you're definitely correct.
And Andrew Tate mentioned, and I know we're going to get into another conversation about it. Andrew Tate mentioned something funny, which I believe I agree with a little bit, that the world at the moment currently functions in such a way that rich, they're fine, they make a shitload of money, they can do whatever they want. The super poor, they're not fine, they don't make a shitload of money, but they can at least still do whatever they want. The guys in the middle class, they get shit all over by everyone. That's what's happening. The middle class at the moment probably hate Donald. The rich guys, they have so much money, even if they hate him, it's not affecting them that much. They're just like, yeah, we've made a load of money for the last 15 years anyways. For the last 20,
Yeah.
The middle class, oof. The poor guys are thinking, this is for us. Because now these manufacturing jobs are coming back.
Yeah.
This is for us. Because those jobs that we were getting pushed out of because immigrants will take less money for it. Now we can take it again and say, nah, you pay me what I'm worth.
Yeah. So what would you think is golden is like Donald Trump now from his perspective? Do you think now he's trying to bring up a lot of lower income households, so like middle class, or he's trying to level everyone from poor to rich class? What do you think? You might be thinking in that direction. Like,
so from my perspective, and I might be blinded by very little information as well, I will use this word. I think it wants to make America great again. And people ask the question, what do you mean by make America great again? I think the period that they believed that America was great was when America was actually manufacturing stuff, rails, boats, all those things, right? And they had a very blossoming working class. This is when a lot of Europeans also moved to the US because of the Industrial Revolution. That's what they believe is a great America. So they want to invoke another industrial revolution in the US where the working class is huge and growing and burgeoning, right? So whether it's poor people, whether it's middle class, it's just now let's play in this world again where America's industrial revolution is booming. Now, a lot of people are making the argument that maybe this is what will happen at first, but the rich people are going to adjust and quickly replace things with robots and AI, which we didn't have in the initial industrial revolution. So this is another angle that might make the whole thing crumble. But maybe they will have regulations to prevent this or not, I don't know. Or maybe they will find another solution. But robotics and AI could become a problem to everything they want to achieve. But I don't think this is Donald's intention, right? And if that's the intention, it's now time for the country and the people to work together. I was thinking about it that if I would be in the US at the moment, I'm not in government, what will I be thinking about? I'll quickly be looking online at products that people used to ship in at super cheap amount. And I'll start thinking, I just need to find a way to do it in the US, not to be the cheapest in the world, but to be the cheapest in the US.
in America, yeah.
And the cheapest in the US now just has to be cheaper than the cheapest in the world plus the tariffs from wherever it's coming from. For now. And maybe if you scale and grow, by the time everything opens up again, you have the economies of scale to compete with the cheapest in the world. But I won't sit down and complain. Again, I'm not directly affected. I'm definitely a little bit affected, of course, but not as much as the Americans at the moment, yeah, especially in the short term. And as an outsider, that would be my advice for the US. Think intentions. Why is your leadership doing this? and start thinking, how do you participate so that at least you guys come out at the end of it as winners? I hope everyone can win, but this is a realistic point to make in the world.
Now that you're talking now, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, because for me, I've seen for the past 5 years now that there's also this shift in the type of economy that we think we are in. We believe we are in the service economy, right? But I feel like that is like done, it's cooked now with AI, and it's like it's a market for like so little to play in that it will affect the whole population. And I was reading just today news about China trying to reduce the number of people that are trying to get into universities and having masters and PhDs. So they are forcing a lot of people indirectly now to go and learn trade. And I think Germany is sort of the same with the Ausbildung thing and all this. And US is suffering from that. So many people with college degrees, so many people with all these degrees, but I don't think we are really leaving industrial era behind, because we are still using all these things, but we are acting like, oh, tech is the new thing, or service industry is the new thing, or whatever. But bro, a quick
Exactly.
way to be average, like middle class right now, is to go and learn a trade. Go learn a trade, get it started, you will be fine.
Exactly. And what the US have been using so far, for so long, is pushing everything to China. And China has been taking everything. Why are the people not thinking, why is China taking it? And they keep growing. The honest truth is, China took all the manufacturing jobs and they became what they've become today. China is the leader of the world today. Whether free world or not, they're the leader of the world.
Everyone is in
Bro,
buzzword,
they
bro.
approved, bro, they approved flying cars, bro.
Yeah.
They have approved flying cars. They have the Jaguar U8 can swim. They have swimming cars that turn into boats, man.
Have you seen these parallel parking cars now? Like the
What
rear
their
tires will
cars
just,
now do it?
bro.
Blood, bro. All the new cars in the US. Do you know the funny thing? I just watched a video of Speed, right? And they were showing him the Jaguar U9 and the U8 from BYD, this luxury sports car.
Wait, nobody's in the car.
Nobody in
No, wait, 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 wait,
No,
wait, wait,
nobody.
wait.
Nobody in the car.
Nobody's in the car.
Nobody. Come here.
Nobody's in the car.
Chinese, 牛逼.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? He's doing on his phone. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait, are you doing it on your phone? No,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah,
He's not
yeah.
doing it on his phone. He's just recording. There's actually nobody in his car.
Nobody, no phone.
There's nobody in his car.
Nobody, no phone. I told him live.
This shit just parallel park.
Yeah, magic.
This shit just parallel park.
And then they told him, oh, the U8 can parallel park by itself. And he was like, oh, let it do it, let it do it. Then he turned to the left side, and it was another car, another brand. And the guy that was driving the car was like, let me show you, let me show you. Then he did it. And they had to tell Speed, no, 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 that's a different brand. It's just every car can do it now.
That's mental, bro. Yeah.
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 It's mental. Yeah, and I think people need to think about that. It is an interesting position. I mean, for you, what would you tell Americans? I mean, you're also in the US. What do you think is the way to approach this?
I think that would be what I just said. Like if it's someone that is struggling financially, who doesn't know where it fits in this whole new change and all, just go learn a trade. Don't I think the US is trying to go big on that, and I've always seen for myself also that, you know what, this whole, yeah, take your man, it's a data marketing. Take your tech certificate or whatever, like your your computer science, whatever, just put it on the site, man. Like, it's not like it's still not there, but you are competing against every youth now, because that's what we're all fed.
Plus AI.
Now AI is like, yeah, replacing like one AI agent for like 100 human beings, man. So, what are you trying to,
Yeah.
So I think if we look differently, if we try to see what the government is trying to do and align yourself in the direction of that, I think you will be fine as an American. So let's go into the entertainment topic for today, and it's nothing else than Jay's interview with DJ Academics. You should know DJ Academics, right? So
I know that. Yeah, I know academics.
he had this interview, a raw, unfiltered interview this week. and it's about 1 hour plus long. So
Yeah, I think I definitely when I start bossing up for my kids, I definitely feel. One second, let me just. Yeah, I definitely feel that I was pushing life to the limits by pushing into the truth. Like we know that wasn't surprising when I put that image up of my youngest daughter.
Yeah.
That wasn't like the most surprising idea, but it'd be things that happen that we know happen that we just can't do anything about. But then they push whatever agendas like on the media that they want us to focus on. And that's something where, I don't know who the people are, so it would sound like real conspiracy theory. I just know that the kid from Lincoln Park got killed for expressing some of these same truths. And for me, just as a father, at a certain point, it's not about, it never was that, but when you're a celebrity, it starts to be about more of what fame is going to get you, what clout is going to get you, what money is going to get you over, is this the right thing for your children? And, I'm willing to die for my children or to allow them to be in this kind of environment that I know they're in. And what I noticed on the comments, they always used to try to, like, for the past 10 years, they used to try to write me off. Oh, he's so crazy, he's so crazy. I'm seeing the comments is now like 60, 70% like, yo, he's just telling you exactly what's going on. He's just the only one that's in a position to be able to do it because I don't have any brand sponsorships. It's like I'm past cancel. So these people out here, they toying, they playing. It's interesting. The swastika, I want to just, I know we have a little bit of time. I want to tell you, by doing it, it's sort of like a magnet where people get so mad and they start exposing themselves because the Jews, they move in the tunnels. They move where you can't see them. They're an invisible hand, and they'll get like, what they'll do is they'll threaten people. Oh, we're going to take your tours away. We're going to drop your artists. You got to say this. Like, how many people I stand with my Jewish people, 3 years ago. And what I did is I stood on it this time. I never backed down. That's my whole thing. That's why I was mad about removing that somebody taught me into removing that Jay-Z tweet, because it was just like, nah, the whole idea is no matter what, I'm not going to back down. So by doing a swastika chain, it then ruffled some feathers. And then I really saw the comparison of me and Puff with the
he talked about a lot of things. I mean, for the most part, the interview to me was quite chaotic. Yeah, it was just
Everything with the these days, eh?
he was going like on and off in his mind, basically asking the question, answering the question. But anyways, he talked about like the motivation for like going on his most recent rants and the controversial tweets that he made like recently. And he also talked about the betrayal in the music industry and business, like the fashion business, and from people like Jay-Z not standing up for him, and to Adidas also, which haunting him in a sense. But for me, those are not like the things that that stood out for me, right? So before I even get to the things that stood out for me, he also mentioned about like the Jewish influence, which we are now getting there, right? Like the in the entertainment industry, and how they still are like at the top of the chain. He was really vocal about that, and I think the final bit that was interesting was the part that he accused Kim Kardashian, his ex-wife, and the system of very powerful elites of exploiting his kids while denying. I mean, he tweeted about that also, but he also mentioned in the interview that is like he lost control of his kids, the name and the likeness, like the brand of his kids. And but here are the things for me that I feel like are important to talk about, right? So the first thing is he granted the interview in a black KKK outfit. That was specifically that was specifically made for him. So that was already, it was really intentional about that. He wanted it to come out in the way he imagined in his head. Like they were supposed to sit for the interview, but he was asking the academics, like, no, 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 it's not going to come out the way I want. So he had this image in his head, and they eventually were standing beside the window during the interview. That was weird, but yeah. So he also touched on, he also touched on the reason why you went on, like, this recent rant and talking about the swastika, and yeah, the symbol that he had on his clothes, like recently, saying it was specifically to expose the hypocrisy in the industry. And what does it mean by that? He said he was wearing the swastika outfit, not to promote hate or whatever, but to sort of magnetically, that was his words, provoke reactions and unmask what he calls the invisible hand. So he says there's this invisible hand that operates in secrecy, particularly Jewish executives, where he believes that they do pressure artists and control narratives of what comes out in the music industry and business. So I will quote him now. He says this specifically. It was like, if I wear a piece of their pain, they will threaten to destroy everything around me. So that was the main motivation for the swastika thing. And yeah, he was trying to just act like a sort of resistance rather than endorsement of swastika. So he was making that clear. So, and he was saying that the hypocrisy in that is the fact that the invisible hand is responsible for only promoting Black artists, that only promotes violence and decentralization of the Black community, which he finds problematic. Yeah, the final thing that also stood out for me was he really publicly and openly positioned himself as a fearless truth teller, willing to risk everything for the Black community, for his children, and his legacy. What are your thoughts on all this? So, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, you have downloaded a lot to me now, and I'm thinking, where should I even start from? So the first thing that I would do is I would say his positioning as a truth teller, fearless truth teller. I have to say I agree. Whether he's doing it for the Black people, Black community or not, I'm not sure, because no one has asked him to be the Messiah, and it's fine. Well, for whatever
He
reason
mostly
that
said
he's
for his
doing what he's
kids and his
doing,
legacy and for the community.
okay. Okay. For his kids, maybe, yeah, because you grow and then you're thinking, I feel chained. I feel his experience now, right? I don't know how he feels. I don't know what he has experienced in the industry. But let's say his experience in the industry was, I'm so big, but I'm still a dog with a chain around his neck. And now my kids are coming up in this industry as well. And wow, is this what they will come to experience as well? So I can see how that could make him into someone that wants to martyr himself. Yeah, he turns into Messiah or a martyr or whatever. So I do believe, yes, if he also believes that those people are super powerful and they can control the narrative, they can do all those things, to stand up to them in the way that he's doing it definitely makes him a fearless truth teller. So I agree with him on that one. On the bit of the KKK outfit and the swastika stuff, it tells you that Kanye is an artist through and through, down to the bones. Everything is a curated demonstration. Everything is a curated act, from his tweets to his interview. And I won't say anything about the KKK thing, because I don't believe that we should simply just look at inanimate things and always conclude. If I wear that swastika shirt now and I'm saying I'm not racist, I've never done anything racist, and you can check my history and you can see that I've not done anything racist. In fact, if you can check my brain and my mindset and you see that I've not done anything racist, I think people will still cancel me for wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. Yeah, because where does it come into play of what exactly has he done wrong? What is the intention? This guy is even coming out to say, I'm not trying to push it. I'm just saying, I want to show you what the invisible hands and actually mean.
Yeah.
This is a demonstration. I'm telling you that this is a demonstration. This is art.
Yeah, I mean, he's just coming out with this, right? You know, it's just like, yeah, when he does it, you
Yeah, it's coming out, but also when he did it, it was you could tell that there was a little bit of correlation to it. Before this interview, we had this conversation
yeah,
where I said I wouldn't be surprised
yeah.
if Kanye comes out and say I'm the greatest comedian ever.
Not even the greatest. You also mentioned the fact that you believe that he's testing the level of cancellation. And he said it. He said, I'm beyond
Exactly.
cancellation. Like at this point.
Exactly.
that
I
you are
mean, he has
still-
tested it now. At this
Yeah.
point, what can he literally?
Yeah.
Yeah, unless he truly commits a crime. Unless he truly commits a crime or truly does something bad, he has shown that you cannot cancel me for inanimate things, for things that you don't even clarify what my intentions are. And it's taking demonstration to the extreme. It's nudity, for example. Nudity standalone, you might judge. But what about nudity of women protesting in France naked?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Like how do you just juxtapose that, right? Because you see the intention, you see what the demonstration is about, you say these are strong women. Yeah, flap that boobs. But if I'm just nude and I'm posting pictures online, I have you no shame. Oh, that's child porno. That's exposing children to blah blah blah. And then nude beach. You can literally protest in a nude beach for fuck you. You're wearing a bikini. Get the fuck out of here. So the intentions are always something to consider. And we've had a conversation about it that you will never know. But also, you have to then become a bit more careful in the interpretation of the actions. That it wears KKK, blah, 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 a swastika. I think it's just a wait and see. This guy is to be investigated. What's going on here? Not, oh, now we know exactly what's going on.
He
You know what I
claimed
mean?
they are coming for his life, by the way. He was quite paranoid in that interview. He was checking the door, he was looking at the window. And
Do you know why? If this guy gets away with this, do you think more people will be emboldened to not give?
yeah, I think it's quite empowering, yeah.
Exactly. If more people are emboldened to not give a what do you think happens to the whole structure and system? I'll give you a funny story. There was a funny story about one of the Oro festivals, like it's like a spiritual masquerade in some localities in Nigeria. And two couples, I heard it in a church anyways, they traveled visiting from the UK or the US or something, and this Oro thing was happening. Now because they have been Americanized, they're like, nah, this is bullshit, we don't care. So they came out they unintentionally anyways, they were traveling back home from somewhere when this thing was going on at night, and I think the woman that's not supposed to see this Oro saw that Oro. And the thing is that, well, if you see Oro, you get offed in 7 days.
Yeah.
But this is supposed to happen spiritually, right? And I think they failed. And this is why it became a testimony in church. Because the Oro guys, they were actually the one doing the offing. It's not happening spiritually. It's a
Oh.
message that has been shared. And everyone, and then these guys literally tried to break into the house to off the woman. They actually injured her, but I don't think she got offed, and that's how it became a testimony in church. But that's the point. When you have a system, when you have a story, when you have a structure, and someone does what Kanye has done to that kind of structure,
Yeah.
yes, it's reasonable that he's paranoid. So that's it about the swastika, the tweets, and all that stuff, and him being a truth-telling mechanism or machine, whatever he calls himself. Now, his approach, do I agree? No, but I don't know what he knows.
Yeah.
I don't know what he knows. I haven't experienced what he has. He's a big name. He's a big guy that has been in rooms that I haven't dreamt of stepping in. He has seen things that I haven't seen. And for him to be so erratic like this tells you something. And the fact that no one else have tried, there were people that tried to do it calmly. If we believe that it's the same system that someone like Michael Jackson tried to fight, right? And cost him his life, and he couldn't do anything. Michael Jackson was extremely wealthy as well, extremely powerful, probably more powerful than Kanye. Failed. He lost his life to it. And it seems like Kanye has been the closest to even shaking that foundation a bit. Because it's testing the limits.
I think the
It's setting
internet
up
really
things, it's
helps.
changing things here and
If
there.
you try to do this during the era of no internet, before you know it, you are dead, man. No, you are off and nobody knows why or
Exactly.
whatever reason. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think from that angle, I cannot even blame his implementation per se. Bit about the Kim thing, I couldn't understand that one. I also saw a bit of a tweet, I think, or something from Shade Room about it, saying the likeness and the names of my kids they were registered by Kim, and she's using it blah 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 for this. They are in albums or music that I don't want them to be in.
Yeah.
My only comment there, I can't even conclude anything. My only comment there was Kim claimed that she asked Kanye back then, and he said, "Go ahead and do it." But I think having a paper of you are in control of their name and likeness does not mean that you do not need the consent of their father for things to happen. Right? And if there's a misalignment, it does not mean you go ahead to do it. And this is the issue that I've always discussed about household and family structure. They have a misalignment, and Kim just says, I don't care, as if it's not their father anymore.
Yeah.
Unless she has proof to say you are accepted, you are allowed that this can happen, every single thing should still be run through their dad. And it's unfortunate that even though their dad is a crazy guy, I think the mom is also not helping. You can say, oh, well, Kim has struggled. She has tried to be supportive of him. But is this true?
I feel like, I'm starting to really make sense out of all is going on with Kanye. Like before, he was really tagged like this bipolar guy, this unstable mentally ill guy. But if you listen to him long enough, you really see a tormented person, a someone who has been betrayed so many times, who has trust issues for the right reasons. And I just feel like these days it doesn't sound as crazy to me anymore.
Hey, same here. Yeah. Honestly, I understand a little bit by bit, what might be going on. But again, limited information. The Jay and Beyonce one, I can't even comment. I think they also have the right to make the decision on who they want to associate with. It's not as if Kanye didn't change, right? You can't say you have that kind of drastic change and you don't give the people around you the opportunity to
Understand.
rethink whether they want to continue to exactly. You should say, okay, I know, I've changed. This is a complete U-turn from where I used to be. So everyone gets the chance to at least rethink if they want to continue associating with me. No bad blood. And I think one of the biggest things that split Jay and Beyonce was because they don't really like the union with the Kardashians, because the Kardashians also have their own history of being extremely toxic.
Yeah.
Right, and the Jay and Beyonce guys didn't want to associate with that. Kanye almost, let's put it this way, he let go of his brother to be with a woman. So for him to call them out now, I don't know.
Bro, Kim used to be, there was this lady he was dating during the college album, and like that was his girl, man, for like ride or die, man. I forgot her name.
Amber?
She's this. No, not Amber. Like she was this black lady. Apparently, she was with him from day one. A lot of black Americans know the lady. I was just seeing the news lately, and the wild thing that happened was there were a few parties that Kanye was in with this girl that he was with at that point. That Kim was also there. So multiple occasions, Ye was with this girl at that point, and Kim was also there. So she actually apparently knew this other chick, but all along she was gunning for a man, right? And I think that's another layer to it, man. Like,
Yeah, but to be fair as well, Kanye was crazy. I think when Kanye was with Amber as well, he said that he actually went to Kim and said, "You'll be my wife."
He's a very complicated guy.
So-
That is another problem with
Yeah,
him, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes it makes you feel right. He was also saying this. I'm like, why you saying it? He said something that he didn't plan on having kids with Kim, but that's God's plan. And I'm like, how would I feel as Northwest right now hearing this from my dad or
And
whatever?
all the other kids, they have
Yeah.
like 5 together or 4 also. I mean, if you look at Kim's track record, Kanye won somehow because she had
For
a lot
sure.
of kids with him.
For sure. I think they
Yeah, she
still have
didn't
this
have kids with
thing
anyone
going
else.
on. They just can't
They
be
like
together.
each other somehow,
Yeah.
but it's just I mean, but that's their own problem, anyways. That's their own
So I have
problem.
one final
feel
question.
Like, yeah,
On this,
Yeah,
I
please
feel
go
like
for
I
it.
want to know what you think on that. Like the part where Ye said, if I wear a piece of their pain, they will threaten to destroy everything around me. audio make out of that? Does that seem far-fetched, or like there's a sense of truth to that? Because I think there is actually, and I find this statement quite heavy, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So the first thing that I'll pick out is he acknowledges that, yep, maybe this is a pain for the Jewish community. And I would use that pain to pass a message. Now, from that perspective alone, good for the Jewish community to want to protect their pain. Good for them to want to do anything about that. I know where we're going with this. There's the opposite of what about the pain of the other communities?
Yeah.
That the Jewish people use. Right? You mentioned the fact that they would use the pain of the black community and only sponsor music that promotes violence, that further increases that pain. Good for the Jewish community again. Because guess what? They have the power, they have the money, they have whatever it is that they have to exploit us, and we cannot wake up. The black people, until the black community can do the same, where they with your pain and you show them that you don't do that, then this will continue to happen. Now, I'm not speaking from emotions now. I have a different personal opinion. My personal opinion is always around fairness. My personal opinion is always around equity. My personal opinion is always around some sort of balance in the world. Unfortunately, this is not the reality. In real life, power structure actually matters. Power is power. This is a very big quote from Game of Thrones. Power is power. And so we have the power to dictate that you don't with our pain, to dictate that you don't with my story. It will continue to happen, and all we will do is complain. So good for Kanye West as well, for pressing these buttons, for pushing these boundaries. Good for him as well. And maybe in that sense, actually, it's something for the community to watch and learn.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
guess what? The community is cuckoo. They think Kanye is the crazy one, but the community is the crazy one. Because they look at the whole thing and Kanye is the bad guy. Even the black community thinks he's the bad guy.
I feel for you, man. Watching that interview, I feel like academics got into the room and it was like,
I'm calm. I'm calm. I don't know. For another reason, I thought like there was going to be like assistants, staff. I like it. A little bit simple.
while I was talking to his other like team members, like I thought there would be like PAs or whatever. He's alone, bro. Someone like in
Like
his
he just
caliber.
walked in.
It was direct. He opened the door. He was the only one there. He's like, he's isolated, bro. And that's mental, man.
Wow. But for his safety, I think that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
Because think about Michael, MJ's death. They had to investigate the medical team and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So for safety reasons, you don't even need security at this point. You just have to be close. I think, yeah. We'll see how this proceeds. I really hope that no one is after his life. I understand why he's paranoid, but I hope that we can have Kanye for a very, very long time. He's an exciting person to have in the world today. And I would love that kind of person continues to exist. And that's it, Ibra. It was an exciting discussion. I really appreciate that. And thank you. I think we'll now round up this episode. Guys, I think this episode we have discussed a lot of things that should be getting you guys into it. Yeah, commenting and reacting, sharing your own perspective, answering some of the questions that we couldn't answer because of our limited perspective. Guys, do not forget, just keep commenting, sharing your opinions. We really want that. Everything we've discussed today, it's based on our own analysis, based on our own personal preferences, and many, many more. It's not necessarily a position of right versus wrong or good versus bad or whatever. It's all just communication, conversation, putting it out there, right? So guys, do not forget to share your own opinions as well. And do not forget to like, subscribe. We're on all platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and X, and Thread as well. Yeah. And thank you guys. Bye bye. Peace.